Hi, listeners and watchers. This is the Steve Perryman Podcast, restarting up for this new season. Thank you for tuning in. As ever, we have Howard with us. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Tom.
Yeah, welcome. And Tom, how are you, Tom?
Steve, hi, Howard. Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you. So I hope you've not got too burnt during this hot summer of ours. And I'm sure that we're all pleased to be back in this football season. So it's been a trying summer, isn't it, with regard to that, with Harry Kane and all sorts of intrigue going on at the club, our Italian connection, Paratici, the owner, of course, innocent until proven guilty with regard to insider training. All we needed was Ivan Toney on our books and we'd have had a set. But there you go. So our good name still exists. So I'm just going to say a few words. I'd like to remind you faithful listeners that Howard has Parkinson's. And although he is doing really well, considering he was diagnosed over 11 years ago, sometimes his ability to think on his feet is not as swift as it used to be. And by the way, my feet aren't as swift as they used to be either. So listeners of my age might remember Letter from America by Alistair Cook on Radio 4. Well, this is a letter from Howard. On you go, Howard.
Thank you. So here we are again. Over and over after more than 20 years, still doing the same thing. It is said that to repeat an operation day after day, expecting the same response, would be insanity. And yet, surprise, surprise, Daniel Levy comes along doing the same. Daniel sacks or encourages managers to leave after a bad run of results. The difference this time is that we all know very little of the new manager, so we listen carefully for hints, tips, anything that we can cling on to. Believe me, I'm exactly the same as everyone else. I will pray, swear to be a good boy, land on all fours, do anything you want if it will lead us to the promised land of the Champions League. I hear you say, this time it's different. Surely this manager, who no one had heard of a few weeks ago, he will be the one. The other day, my son, also known as manager of AFC Richmond, got a call from an Australian friend who is very involved with football over there. He told Brett that he was absolutely thrilled at Angie's appointment and considered him to be, bar none, the best manager he'd ever met. Working from these ramblings, I decided to go to a few notes to look at our major enemies and see where they are going compared to us. Over the last 20 years, we have got through enough managers to sink a battleship. If Angie wins anything, that would be fantastic. As usual, I will pray, live in hope, etc., etc. Meanwhile, Arsenal finished second last season, and everyone seems to feel they may well go on and win the league this season. To have a strong chance of winning the league, a manager would go straight out and sign the few managers that could improve his team. This is what Arteta has done. And his new signings cost twice as much as ours. The other big clubs all have done exactly the same thing. They have bought more players. The real problem is not that we or they never bought enough players. We certainly did. But they weren't very good. In financial terms, this is where we've lost so much value, buying the wrong players. Our brief moment of opportunity, I believe, came when, by some miracle, we got through to the Champions League final against Liverpool. In my opinion, it was at this moment in time that Daniel should have sat down with our then manager, Pochettino, who was loved by the fans and players alike, and asked him what he needed for us to move the club forward. What actually happened was to offer just enough money to buy some not so high quality players, and within a few months of the final, he had sacked Posh. The romantic side of me wants a club where a new player would be made to feel at home, learn some of the club's history, and take the club forward, not backwards. While Spurs have moved ever lesser, let's look at the big clubs around us. When I was growing up, the big five were always the same: United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, and Everton. Everton lost their position and Chelsea took their place when Roman Abramovich's money came into play. Now, the big clubs at the start of this season are six: City, owned by Sheikh Mansour; United, owned by the Glazer family; Chelsea, now owned by vast American funds. This year alone, they've spent around £1 billion. Arsenal, also owned by American interests; Newcastle, owned by Saudi Arabia; and Liverpool, owned by US sports interests. I can't see any of these owners getting bored with their toy anytime soon. So where do we come in this? We've moved so far behind these clubs. It is possible for us to finish higher than 7th this season.
Well, we'll discuss that later, Howard, if you don't mind. Where do we think we're going to finish? So bear that in mind, Tom. So thank you for that, Howard. That's like an overview of where we sit. Yeah. So, Howard, I'm going to start with you again.
Yep.
So where do you see us now that Harry's left? What's your feelings about Harry and where we're going from here?
Where we go from here, clearly Daniel has come across to Ange and he thinks he's a good guy. And I must say, everything I hear him speak when he does match interviews or pre-match interviews, I like what he says and I like the way he says it. He looks like a good guy. He also believed to be very tough with the players. When it's time to pat him on the back, he'll have him pat him on the back. When they stay out of the line, he'll take care of it. So I think quite by accident, probably the last name he's left on the list, Daniel's picked a manager who could be the answer. But will he be the answer? What I've just said suggests it doesn't matter who you appoint, they're always going to be put in that position until Daniel goes. And
until something changes. That's your point.
That's it, yeah.
Until something changes.
Yeah.
And Harry, do you think Harry deserves to go?
From a personal point of view, of course, Harry has always been straight with the club, straight with the players, straight with the spectators. He's been an amazing servant to the club. Twice before he could easily have gone, and this time he's waited for. The only thing I'd say is he could have said at the beginning of the close season. But basically, he's been a great servant to the club. We love having him around, and got to be positive for him.
Absolutely, he deserves it, Howard.
Yeah.
Tom, welcome. So, your thoughts of Harry?
We're going to miss him so much, I think. He's been the best thing about going to watch Spurs for the last few years. Certainly, like during a period of very defensive football that we've had, he was still able to score 30 goals last season in a team that just didn't really create much going forward on a regular basis. So and before that, I think one of my favorite Harry Kane periods, though, I guess was almost like his early days when like you just didn't know what you're going to get. It was all a bit unknown, and suddenly he just came out of nowhere and exploded onto the scene, and it became a kind of it was interesting just to see how long it would last for. He was scoring all sorts of goals, he was showing up in big games, and had this fearless kind of factor about him, which you just wondered how sustainable it would be, how long before other clubs worked it out. One season wonder was obviously the song, and he just carried on doing it. And I can't remember seeing a more consistent goal scorer, or score as well as being a scorer of great goals in my lifetime. And it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him play for our club. I was holding out hope that he would stay for another year. I like to watch my team play. I like to watch the best players play for my team. I spend a lot of time and money going to watch them, and I want to he's one of the players that you're happy to pay to watch, because he's world class, and he has been just wonderful for us. And I was hoping for another year from him before probably say goodbye next summer. Even if just getting that money doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to invest it wisely. Equally, not my money. I'm not going to see it. I'd like to have another year taking my lad to see Harry Kane play for Spurs. But he's gone, and you immediately begin looking at the ramifications and certainly the bright side, try to look on the bright side, try and think, okay, well, we've got a manager now that wants to play attacking football. There's hopefully going to be, it would have been nice to have seen him at the end of an attacking team, and he could have scored an unreal amount of goals this season, I think, looking at the way we're playing in pre-season. But I think we've got I'm sure we'll come on to the game in a minute, but I thought the Brentford game as well as the pre-season games have shown a lot of encouragement in terms of how the team as a whole is going to play, and not just how it's been over the last couple of years, which has been play a pretty defensive low block and see what happens up front.
Good. Okay, I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to what you both said there. Howard's overview, your specific view of Harry, again with Howard. So if I can put my penneth in, people would say to me, Steve, why didn't you move on? Well, none of us are in the same position. None of us are built the same way or think the same way. I am going to use it to highlight homegrown ability again. Best player, Glenn Hoddle, technical player I've played with. Best captain I've played under is me. I think that's biased somewhat. And the top goal scorer, Harry, all homegrown. So please don't undervalue homegrown players, please. So why didn't I move? Well, okay, I wasn't at the level of Harry, but I had other assets. And I felt that the environment was so right for me and for my game. Why move on? Because actually, when you move on, you move house, you move district, you move schools, you move this, you move that. The environment may not be the same that was the environment that helped you be a good professional, a good player, a good servant to your club, and value for money for your club. So from the other point of view, though, when it was all over, I did venture with Ozzy to Japan. And I've said this so many times in the past. People said to me, when you work abroad, Steve, you will get such a surge of energy. And that's exactly how it worked out. And it's no bad thing that you go and sample a new culture. You bring your children up speaking a foreign language. So there's lots of good things about this. In no way am I putting myself alongside Harry, but there are similarities between our service, our length of service, not in goals, unfortunately, although I think I've said before that I have a goal scoring record. And so, yeah, I wish him well. And I just hope that he doesn't rue the day if and when he realizes that the environment that he's gone to is not the same environment that he's just left, to enable him to be the player that he's shown us already. And I hope he wins trophies, but of course, I hope we win trophies more. So we started to talk there about Ange, the manager. I'm not going to attempt the surname. So I think that this man is believable. I think you mentioned it, Howard. I think he's believable. He holds himself correctly. He's not here for the sake of it. He's got a clarity, a purpose, and a manner about him. That's how I see him so far. Any comments from either of you, particularly you, Tom, about Ange?
I think he's coming across. He's ticking boxes left, right, and centre. I haven't heard anyone have a bad word to say about him so far since he's been appointed. I think there was obviously a lot of slight bit of skepticism when he was appointed, but I think he, given some of the names we've been linked to before, but I think every interview he's done, the feedback we've had from fans of other clubs, like Howard mentioned earlier, the comments he had from Australia, the fact the Celtic fans were absolutely gutted to lose him.
Yeah, very much so.
Everything, and then just the words he says and the way he's handled every bit of. He's had a hell of a kind of start to life at Spurs. He's had to deal with the Harry Kane saga throughout, since day one. Every press conference he's been asked about it. He's had the pretty classless attempts of Bayern related journalists holding up shirts with his name on, and I think he handled that brilliantly. He's he just comes across. He's got a Martin Jol avuncular type of vibe about him, I think, as well as a slightly harder side to him as well, which I think can come out when it needs to. And then in terms of the football, he just says the right things. He says what fans want to hear about how the game's going to be played, how his philosophy.
Believable, absolutely believable.
And you do just believe everything he says when he talks. You don't think he's just playing up to the cameras, and he just makes sense. And there's no games, there's no kind of each press conference just seems like a bloke answering questions in an intelligent way, in a way that kind of suggests he gets the football club, he gets the fans. If you
remember how I described Bill Nicholson, no spin, no mind games, no flannel, no nonsense. Set the tone. He's absolutely set the tone for those players as per the tempo. We'll come on to the Brentford game in a second, but the tempo that we play at, and apparently that's what we train at. Bearing in mind, I haven't watched any of the pre-season games because I don't treat that serious. It is serious if you're the player and you're the manager and you're playing and you're getting fit, etc. But I don't treat it serious as per where we're going. I think that needs to be judged when you are on the starting line, as we were at Brentford, and we know how. A lot of people said to me how much they're looking forward to this season, and I think that's right. As per, are we going to win something? Probably not. Are we going to be entertained? I think we probably will.
Yeah.
We're not going to win every game, are we, Howard?
No.
We're not going to win every game, but I think we're going to have a go trying.
Yes.
And I think that from what we've been through for the last 2 or 3 years, I think that's as much as we can ask for so far. So did either of you go to the game, Brentford?
No, I was short of loyalty points by a considerable amount, unfortunately. But be there on Saturday for Man United.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Watched it on Sky though.
So 4 new players, 4 debuts.
Yep.
Did anyone disappoint you? Of those 4?
I'm now waving.
Yeah, good, Howard.
I'm not sure. Van Dan is the one that stood out for me as in a positive way. He really looked like a proper central defender, stepping in when necessary, clearing as much as necessary.
Heads it, kicks it, passes it to one of our players easily with a bit of tempo.
So he was great.
Proper centre back.
Yeah.
Left back, Howard.
Left back, was that Undogi?
Udigi, whatever his name is.
He looked pretty good. And I did see the pre-season friendly that he was in as well, which he looked good.
Yeah, I'm happy with him. I'm very happy with him. Maddison, I don't even have to ask the question, Tom.
Just class, I think 2 assists on your debut. Can't really ask for much more than it's what you were signed for, wasn't it? To kind of pick the lock and actually start filling the Eriksen hole finally several years later. I thought Udogie was really good as well. I think he could potentially be our left back for the next 10 years, the way he's kind of started his career. But there's just a couple of bits where I don't know if you remember Anthony Gardner. I don't want to compare them, but Anthony Gardner used to always worry me the amount he kind of put his hands on defenders on attackers when he was kind of shepherding them off the ball. And there's a couple of times Udogie did that, and you're just kind of almost waiting for the ref to give a free kick. But other than that, I thought he looked really, really strong defensively, and as well as going forward. And Van der Ven as well looked really, really good. Unlucky to have the ball deflect off him for that.
That's how I saw it.
But you think that as him and Vicario start playing together more, Vicario might have commanded the area a bit more. They'd have a bit more communication about who's going to go for what. So I thought Vicario is going to keep us on our toes.
I get that impression. He He was nervous to start off with, wasn't he? In possession of the ball, but I think that's one of his strengths with the ball. He just took a bit too long early on, but yeah, let's see how that one develops. And Howard, any thought about the captaincy decision?
Absolutely, I wasn't expecting it at all. Sonny is a lovely boy, and he can be enthusiastic, but I don't think the rest of his game is strong enough, and the rest of his character is strong enough to be the skipper in charge there. And I think that also he's got problems with his playing, let alone the captaincy. Last season was terrible for him, and you can't judge it on one match, of course. But he disappeared for most of the game on Sunday.
Yeah,
very wide, didn't he?
He was very wide.
Yeah,
he doesn't do a lot of movement before the ball comes to him.
No.
That worries me. You normally run on beyond the fullback and then check back and get it to feet. So he was just waiting for the ball, and eventually someone would give it to him, and he normally passed it backwards, which was not quite in the Ange sort of salesman speak, was it?
No.
So, and Kulu actually was a little bit similar to that, a bit more positive than Son. I just wonder when apparently 70% of supporters voted for Son.
Really?
And I think that's not that should affect any manager's decision. And by the way, it is only the manager's decision who's captain.
Yeah.
It can only be the manager, because that relationship is nearly as important, not quite, nearly as important as the manager or the head coach or whatever he's called these days with the Levy character.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one. But the second one is the manager, head coach with the captain. So I hope that Son being made captain, and remember they've also taken 2 vice captains. Sounds a bit committee like for me. I don't like that word, committee.
Yeah.
I just hope that it's not a PR decision. And I hope and pray that Andrew would be strong enough. I'm sure he is. So, but I'm just throwing it out there. And I thought that Son is playing his best football when he's smiling.
Yep.
And he certainly wasn't smiling on Sunday. And that could be the responsibility just sort of wearing him down a bit. I think he plays off instinct. That's my word for Son. He plays off instinct. And I don't know that instinct takes much part in the decision being captain. I think the captain one is a consistency, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, doesn't get disappointed, isn't slapping everyone on the back when they score a goal. He's back on the halfway line, preparing us for what's coming next. So yeah, I just hope that. But anyway, I wish him well. He's the captain of the club now, so well played, Son. And but I think the manager will note if it affects his game enough. And Howard, go on. You got something?
Yeah, I was just coming up to what you were finishing with there. Well, I'm going to move on to the other player who didn't make his debut, but was very, very disappointing. Was Richarlison.
Richarlison, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a query with him since before he came to Tottenham. He always seemed to get injured when nothing else happened. To find himself in the wrong positions, always just hit the couple of shots that he had on Sunday were the only ones that came his way. He wasn't looking for it. And as he approached it, you knew he wasn't going to score because there's no confidence there making that happen.
It's conviction at the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah. He needs a boost. And the boost. Do you remember when we used to say about Harry? Forget August. He won't score in August.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, so let's just wait our time on that one. Keep our powder dry. He sort of worries me, Richarlison, but he's never really had minutes to get into his game.
Right.
He's been brought in off the bench. He's been picked for the so-called lesser games, FA Cup and League Cup. And I'm not sure that's any way to put together a group of performances that gets you into the pattern of form. And so we're going to see how that one goes. But there was all these questions before the game, wasn't there? Is the goalkeeper going to be good enough? What about a new back four? What about Bissouma?
Yeah.
Is Bissouma what we bought? And I think we've spoken about him on this podcast. Is he what we bought, or is he what we saw last year?
He's what we hoped we were getting. He's the Brighton midfielder from a couple of years ago that ran the show at our stadium when they came to play. And he absolutely dominated the midfield, I thought. And Brentford, they lost twice at home last season. They're a good team,
exactly,
and they couldn't get near him. And he had a bit of a Dembele swagger about him at times, the way he kind of
didn't he just
turned and made space and shielded it, and you just look at the way he's played and the way and how confident he's looked since Ange came in, and you just think, what did Conte not see in him to not want to play him regularly last season, or at least give him a proper run of games? He was outstanding.
I was starting to feel that Bissouma was more interested in how he looked with the socks above his knee and couldn't see any of his skin, and the pulled over his thumbs, the shirt. Wow, just play. Don't matter how you look, just be good. Don't look good, be good. And when he drove with the ball on Sunday, that's what he did at Brighton.
Yeah,
he drove at them. And so with him and Maddison, that's going to be a decent combination. And by the way, Bentancur's still to come in. Please get fit and come back in. So all in all, we were satisfied, weren't we, for Sunday?
Yeah,
definitely
satisfied. We look forward to the Man United game. I just want to mention something. I think the FA have been about 10, 15 years too late with this one, but I love the new refereeing ways. I love it. You want to ask the referee to give a yellow card, you're going to get a yellow card.
I think that's great.
Time taken for the restart after a goal was a standard 30 seconds.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be whatever time is taken to restart that game.
Correct.
I've spoken to a referee friend of mine who says he feels that in the early days of this, and please keep your nerve, the referees, please keep your nerve on this. He feels they're a bit overzealous of putting extra time on for throw-ins that are taken too long. But so far, I think over 2 weeks in Division 1 and 2, whereas the standard time of ball being on the pitch was 48 minutes, that's now gone up by 10 minutes. I know you're getting some managers talking about the safety of the players with this extra time. And he's saying to me that he thinks the extra time is going to come down to maybe 5 minutes at half time and about 7 or 8 at the end of the game. That's about right. So, but they've got to keep their nerve on it. Don't back off. Do you remember the fuss that was caused when they were giving yellow cards for a tackling through the back of the legs, and everyone was up in arms? Oh, it's going to ruin the game. It's a man's game. It's a contact sport, whatever. There's hardly now a tackle from behind. Is there?
No.
Like I say, with this time situation, it is a fundamental change, isn't it? And people will hate it to begin with, but it will also, there's Kerry popping by, but it's if it ends up affecting a positive change on the way the game is played, and the way the way time doesn't get wasted, and that time wasting can't become a tactic.
And there's more value. There's more value for the supporter.
Exactly.
The supporter wants to be entertained, is paying money for the ball to be on the field, not off the field.
Exactly. The only other thing I think the rest need to do, like I say, with the straight yellow for holding the yellow in the face, is when players go down and make the ref's decision for him, grabbing the ball. with their hands
Yeah.
before the ref's blown a whistle, that should be an instant
Absolutely.
yellow. I think
They're going to jump on it.
Yeah, and I think that
They're
because
gonna-
that's something that can roll and develop into something quite a big problem.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Unless that
Take
starts
away
getting...
the game, the shout of game management. Game
Yeah.
management mostly is cheating.
Yeah.
You want to keep the ball and stop the team, your opponent scoring a goal, keep the ball. Move it, pass, move it, pass, move it, pass. And it's amazing how many times that ends up in their net. Howard, you wanted to speak? Sorry, mate, I was late coming to you.
We're going over the same ground largely, but
Yeah, same
you and
ground.
I,
Okay.
you and I have spoken about it many times in the past. But there was a game that you're talking about in the late 60s, early 70s. And I remember I got the paper and the headline was Mullery says save our game. And
Yeah.
Mullers was our skipper at the time. And he was saying, the referee kept booking people in last night of the game and it's going to kill our game because it's going to stop it completely. And of course, it was nowhere near as bad as it became, but it was.
If you're too loose as a referee, that will cost us our game. Our game is more important than any player, past or present or future. Our game is more important. So it's decisions that the referees are making now that can save our game.
Yeah.
I really feel that. So, Tom, you've reminded me earlier on about the night we had in July, Barry Danes fundraiser. That was helped by you, Tom. Glenn was amazing. Mickey Hazard compared, amazing. And
he was to dress up for it as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With his sandals and socks combination.
Flip-flops, yeah. And I just want to thank Portsmouth Spurs, Somerset Spurs and Swindon Spurs for backing us on that evening. That was great. Thank you for turning up. Hope you all enjoyed it. I've got some talks coming up in October. I'm in Bishop Stortford, Scunthorpe, Sheffield / Doncaster and North Devon. In November, I'm in South Wales, Dublin and Somerset. And if you can't find details of any of these talks, go to or write to me by email on steveperrymanpublic@gmail.com. And I definitely will answer you. I always do anyway. But yeah, I can give you details. Not that you've got a book or do anything, but if you just want details, I can give them to you. So, yeah. So thank you for listening. It's great to be back. Fantastic to be in contact with you, Tom, and you, Howard. Thank you for your Howard letter. Much appreciated. And yeah, we're going to have a decent week. We're looking forward to Saturday, aren't we, against Man United? So yeah, let's get behind the new manager. And someone suggested to me, I think it was on social media, that Harry Kane had decided to go to Munich because of to escape the ULEZ. I think if there's anyone who can afford ULEZ to pay the fines, it's Harry. But anyway, good luck to Harry as well. So thanks for listening, and yeah, up the Spurs, and we'll see you soon. Good luck.